Hi, everybody. My name is Peter, and I'm a senior engineer here at Vocarium. I'm really excited today to show you the latest of many lab types that are being developed by us, what we are calling the Vocarium Notebook. The Vocarium Notebook is our completely custom, built from the ground up IDE specifically designed to enhance the experience of learning AI. Generative AI has taken the world by storm, and the demand for learning about it has never been greater. However, we all know that properly training or using a model does not come cheap, and one of the roadblocks for teaching anything ML AI related has been provisioning and managing GPU resources for the learner. Well, I am happy to announce that with Vocarium Notebook, we are solving this issue by introducing both OpenAI and GPU budgets. In this demo, I'll be showing you how these work, as well as some of the other awesome features that are coming with Vocarium Notebook. Before we begin, however, I will mention that everything you're about to see is in beta and is subject to change before release. However, Vocarium Notebook will be shipping as part of our next monthly release, so you won't have to wait long if you want to try it for yourself. With that said, let's start by seeing what the experience is like from the learner's point of view. So the first notebook that I have here is for prompt engineering, and this will be demonstrating our OpenAI integration. In the assignment settings, the teacher can enable and set a budget for OpenAI usage. We will go over how to do those things after the learner experience portion. In this example, I have set the budget to $2, which you can quickly see at a glance in the bottom left-hand corner. If a budget has been enabled, then every learner that uses the Vocarium Notebook will automatically have a Vocarium managed OpenAI API key assigned to them, which they can use to access within the IDE. This key can then be used with our Vocarium API endpoint, which will then forward the request directly to OpenAI. So first, we're going to load the required packages as well as the API key and base. I will point out that it's not mandatory to use Vocarium's key and base here. And the learner is free to use their own OpenAI key as well as the regular base URL if they wish. With that said, using our budgeted API key is not restricted to only within the Vocarium platform. Users can use the API from anywhere in the internet. The Vocarium managed API key is stored as an environment variable within the Jupyter kernel, but the user can also see the full key by clicking on the OpenAI icon in the corner. Doing so will bring up this panel, which is where the learner can also see additional details about their budget. The key being right here. We will have to disable this key after the demo, everybody. So the first method is, okay, so in this example, we're going to use the following helper function that feeds a prompt to GPT 3.5 Turbo and prints its response. Now, let's look at two primary ways a user can use their budgeted key to send prompts to OpenAI. Taking the following example problem, you are a travel blogger exploring a new city. Write a blog post about your experiences, including details about the city's landmarks, local cuisine, and unique cultural aspects. With this prompt, you can experiment with different variations to see how the model responds to changes in phrasing, additional instructions, or specific requests for information. And then we have three prompt variations here. So we have two primary methods to interact with OpenAI. The first and most obvious is to use the OpenAI package using the helper function that we created above. So let's send the first prompt variation using our budgeted API key and see what happens. So this output is the same as if we had just asked ChatGPT directly. And you can see here that the budget was updated immediately using the token cost of the exchange, converted into dollars, and then subtracted from the total budget. In the near future, we're also going to be adding a history table of inputs, outputs, and token costs so that the learner can keep track of their usage. Second method is to use what we call the prompt cell type. This cell type is a Vocarium Notebook exclusive. And because Vocarium Notebook renders everything natively, we're able to create powerful custom cell types that you wouldn't find in a regular Jupyter Notebook. To enable this cell type, you simply have to select it, just like if it was a code or a markdown type. And once created, it asks the user for a prompt, which it will then send to OpenAI using the budgeted API key. So we're going to send the same prompt as the one above. You can see the response that we got. So this chatbot-like cell allows the learner to converse with OpenAI at any time without needing to even import the OpenAI model or have the kernel running. I really want to stress that you don't need to know coding in order to harness the power of these prompt cells. All you need to know is how to write a good prompt, which, as you can see in this example, Vocarium Notebook can be great at teaching. I'm going to move on to our second example, which will demonstrate our GPU integration. So once again, in the bottom corner, you can see our assigned GPU budget, which is 30 minutes for this assignment. So there are two notebooks that I'll be showing off. The first is going to download and train a GPT-2 model. As we know, training and tuning a model can take a very long time depending on the size of the data set and model being used, to the point where it would be infeasible to do so on the CPU. However, with Vocarium Notebook, we are introducing the ability to send training jobs to a separate GPU machine, which will run the notebook, execute all the cells, and save the notebook with its outputs as a separate copy. That's what I did earlier by clicking on the start training button here. For the sake of time in this demo, we're only going to be training our model with a single line of data. However, this notebook will take the entire GPT-2 model and save it to the work area so that it can be imported and used with our second notebook. So as we can see here, the training was successfully completed. And once again, the GPU budget was updated immediately as soon as the training finished. So let's take a look at the file tree. So what was created through the training was this directory, batch executions. And here we can see the results of the executed notebook. So as we can confirm here, all of the cells have been executed. And at the bottom, we can confirm that this notebook was indeed run on a GPU machine, 16 gigabytes. And the model has been saved to the work area, like I described. So now let's open our second notebook, which will actually test the model. So with our model ready to go, we can test it out by asking it some prompts. So once again, we're using a helper function that will take the output, and then we're going to be printing that out. So here we can see that the prompt was completed. And this is just to show that for the notebooks in the IDE, we are using the CPU, so there was no GPU available for running this notebook. One feature that we are currently working on is adding an option to the prompt cell that I discussed in the OpenAI example, that where you can specify the model as well as the function to send a prompt to. Model deployment and sharing will be our focus after the initial release of Vocarium Notebook. So this concludes the learner experience section of the demo. I'll briefly show how to enable these budget features as an instructor now. So to enable the budgets, simply go into the part settings for the assignment. Make sure that you have Vocarium Notebook selected as the lab type. And under resources, you'll see a couple options. You can enable GPU or OpenAI. Doing so will then enable the relevant option in the budget section. And here you can set the budgets for each user. As Sanjay briefly mentioned, for organizations that might want to have fine-tuned control over their GPUs, we do offer the ability to create and set your own scaling policies for GPU machines, and then we would pass the bill forward onto them. What we have is this is our UI. We have a ton of different options as well as parameters that you can use to really fine tune and minimize cost. Like Sanjay mentioned, you can use spot instances, you can select the instance type, a lot of options here for orgs that want to have their own custom machines to run these jobs on.